Hey guys, welcome to ANS Solver. Today we'll be doing the concept of independent observations of the random variable x and multiples, which is a subtopic in the chapter of linear combinations of random variables. Okay, so this is a very important concept to understand. It's a stepping stone for the other concepts which we learn in this chapter. Okay, so what you need to understand here mainly is that this is independent observations. Okay, in the previous video, we had done independent variables. These are separate things. That means there can be a variable x which can have, let's say, three observations: x1, okay, x2, and x3. Correct? And in the question, you will be provided with the mean of the variable x, okay, and the variance of the variable x. Okay, this is what will be basically provided in the question. Now you'll have to calculate the mean of the three observations, which is x1 plus x2 plus x3. So for this, you can also write this as the mean of x1, correct, plus the mean of x2 plus the mean of x3. You know that all x1, x2, x3 are of the variable x, and you know the mean here, you have the mean basically, which is provided to you. And you know these are three observations, so you simply do 3 multiplied by the mean. Correct? This 3 is basically your n, which is the number of observations. Correct? This is what you basically have. Now comes the variance, which is important to understand. You have the variance of x1 plus x2 plus x3, which is equal to, okay, the variance of x1 plus the variance of x2 plus the variance of x3. Correct? This is what you basically have. Now I know this can also be written as, because all of them correspond to the variable x, this can be written as 3 into the variance of x. Correct? I can also write it something like this, which will be equal to 3 into the variance of x, which is provided in the question. Now, because these are independent observations, here when you have the n, okay, when you get the n here, okay, just give me 1 second. Yeah, when you have the n, this is, if you notice, not squared. Okay, normally, which we even learned in the previous videos, the variance, the constant multiplied by the variance, the constant was always squared. But whenever, okay, you need to understand, whenever you have independent observations, okay, you don't need to square the constant which you multiply. This is very important to remember. Okay, very important concept. This is only during independent, okay, independent observations. This is really important to understand. Correct? So this is basically the concept. So now you need to know in independent observations, okay, the mean, that means the mean, okay, just give me 1 second. Yeah, the mean of x1 plus x2 plus x3, okay, plus till, let's say, I have xn, n observations. This can be equal to n into the e of x. This is what you need to understand. The number of observations multiplied by the mean of the variable. In the same way, you have the variance of, let's say, x1 plus x2, okay, let's say till xn. This will also be equal to n into the variance of x, which will be provided in the question. Please note that this thing which you have, okay, is not squared. Okay, this is what you need to know. This is not squared. Okay, because it's independent in nature. So let's say in the questions they'll provide, like, let's say 5 randomly chosen apples. Okay, 5 randomly chosen apples. You know, this will basically, let's say, be the language of the question. Okay, you know, something like this. So basically you can see the word randomly chosen or independent of each other. There can be independent. They can even use terms like independent of each other. Okay, these are the basic terms which you need to know. Okay, so now the concept of multiples you need to understand. Okay, so this is basically the concept of multiples. Okay, I'll just scroll down. Yeah, so even this is a very important concept to understand. In this question, what they'll do is they'll give you, let's say, one variable x. Okay, and they'll say x is twice of y. Okay, they'll ask you something like this. So during that, okay, what you need to know is, in a multiple, they'll give you something like the e of n into x. So this will be equal to n into the e of x, and the variance, okay, of the same, which is basically the n of x, will be equal to n square into the variance of x, which you need to understand. Correct? This is a very important concept to understand. In multiples, you need to note that the n here is squared. Okay, and in multiples they'll use terms like twice, okay, thrice, or they'll use terms like times. These are basically weights, okay, weights attached. Because let's say if I ask you later when we do other videos like normal distribution in linear combination of random variables, that's the last concept which we learn. Okay, these are basically stepping stones to that concept. Okay, they'll ask you, let's say, to calculate the probability of x which is more than twice of y, something like this. So here you need to know that this 2 is a multiple, okay, and not independent. So that means whenever you're calculating, let's say when I'm calculating the variance of x minus 2y, okay, you basically will need the variance of x plus, because the variance can never be negative. Variance can never be negative, so plus, okay, and you will get basically 2 square into the variance of y, okay, which will be provided in the question. So here what you need to do is, you always need to identify, the main thing is you need to identify that whether your question is a multiples question or your question is the independent observation question. Okay, so even if you didn't understand this concept now, it's perfectly all right. It's a little complicated to understand. Okay, you can view all the concept capsules which we have here in this topic. Okay, then you'll get a clear understanding of the full chapter, because especially for this chapter you need to go through the full chapter to understand the bits and pieces, okay, of or the nitty-gritties of the chapter. And then after that you need to practice a lot to get a hang of this chapter, and once you get a hang, it's really simple to solve. Okay, so it's okay even if you don't get the concept. Okay, please view all the videos, okay, in this chapter, because it's really important to understand this chapter properly. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Please view the next video.